live once again. And I always ask, what time is it? And everybody out there should put in the comments right now. It's buff time because you got Brian and Big Dog right here on your screen live coming to you from the digital airwaves of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow Brian on Twitter right now. You can see it up there above his head, Brian Howard 33 or Big Dog underscore Chico for mine. And we could talk about some Buffs and Colorado stuff all day and night. It's BuffTime Podcast, man. Brian, how's it been?
It's been good. I hope you're doing well. It's been a couple weeks since we've done this. It's we were going a couple times a week for a while there during second half of spring ball, but it's been a little quiet around the Buffs lately. And you and I have had a whole bunch of personal stuff going on. My daughter's graduation from high school, and you've had a lot of different things, and Little League baseball, all this stuff. So I'm glad we're able to finally get back together and do this because there's been a little bit of news going on. Nothing earth shattering, but enough to talk about here. Finally about the Buffs after a couple weeks. So I hope you're doing well.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm doing well. Freshly cut, you know what I mean? Trying to get back right and stand on business, as Shador Sanders said. So a lot of different things going on. As you said, the big 10K race is going on. Just went on yesterday for Memorial Day that you had to cover out there. First of all, let's talk about that. How was that out there covering the biggest race in America, right?
Yeah, it's awesome, and I know, people think of Folsom Field, it's a football stadium and all that, but for those that aren't that are more on the Prime fans that are just being with the Buffs for the last couple of years, the Boulder is huge, and it's the biggest 10K race in the country, biggest Memorial Day celebration in the country, and so it's a pretty awesome event. 48,000 runners were there yesterday, and they finish in Folsom Field. So it's a pretty cool deal, as they finish in the stadium and all that. And they have international pro runners and things like that. So pretty cool event.
Nice. So with that event going on, then now I'm finally done with, you can focus back on Buffs football as they are now back on campus and in the football facility. And they're going through winter workouts. But before that, as you and I was discussing, they had a leadership retreat for the team, for the football team, should I say. And, from my experience, I think these type of retreats or type of camaraderie type team building type activities where you can get together outside the football facility and do some things out of nature or just, things that's going to help break the ice between different players who might not know each other. As we saw, for instance, Travis Hunter was rooming with Jalen Wester. A situation where you might not normally see those two guys rooming together, a newcomer with a veteran guy, different positions. They might not ever room together, but here's an opportunity for them to room together and forge a relationship based off of this bond from the leadership retreat. So that can pay dividends throughout the season, whether it's communication style, just understanding each other. I think that leadership retreat was something that was much needed for this program and will help this program in the long run. How did you feel seeing that, and what are your thoughts on the leadership retreat?
Well, first off, I was jealous because it looked like they had a lot of fun, and I love fishing, and so I would have loved to have been a part of that just to go fishing with them. But I think the thing that struck me the most was there was a lot of guys at that retreat, and so it's not just. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just 5 captains. I know Coach Prime doesn't like the term captains. He's mentioned he thinks that's reserved for military and things like that. But traditionally we call it captains, right? It wasn't just 5 or 7 leaders on the team. I mean, there was a lot of guys on that team, and a lot of variety from offense, defense, special teams. You had veterans, you had young guys, things like that. And so I think that's important when you have a lot of guys on the team that are leaders and are being viewed and counted on as leaders.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might miss the fact that leaders are not always, the most vocal ones or the loudest ones on the team. Leaders can also be at different positions, as you saw the punter, Mark Vassett, there. And you heard Coach Prime say in previous interviews that he's like the leader of that spec group, of that special teams unit. So you have like those generals or sub leaders, so to speak, or and they are leaders of their own position group, and then you have the guys who might be the leaders of the whole team, of the offense and then defense, and then of the whole team. So it works in what should I say, layers or tiers, should I say, as far as leadership goes. But it all, I think, will pay those major dividends throughout the season by being able to know that this guy has established himself as a leader. We know how he handles adversity based off
Mhm.
the leadership retreat, and he knows how to communicate with his other teammates in a way that's going to be encouraging rather than disrespectful or downgrading and such. So,
Yeah.
great
Uh,
deal by Coach Prime and staff.
And you look at the difference that, the leaders are everybody from Shador and Travis Hunter to Camden Dempsey, who is a walk on.
Right.
Yeah, he's been a walk on backup long snapper. Right. And so that's almost one extreme to the next. Right. But, in Camden, we know, great young man. I mean, if anybody's been following this team in all the videos the last year and a half, how much they respect Camden and what a great young man he is. But it's all walks of life for those leadership guys, is that, you don't have to be Shador or Travis to be a leader. You can be that walk-on special teams guy.
And that comes from that character part of what Coach Prime is looking for overall from those players. And Camden has shown that character throughout the time that Coach Prime has been there. That's why he's taken a liking to Camden, and he's called him the mayor. And I like Camden a lot, man. So I like the way he's carried himself and things of that nature. So he's going to be one of those guys that we're going to see a lot of. Not see a lot of him on the field per se, but we'll see a lot of him. Whether it's on the videos or representing the team in a positive way, I think.
Well, yeah, and it was interesting too because
let me see.
In one of the videos today, he actually called Camden the governor and said that he was going to be the media spokesperson when some issues come up, and so he said you guys are going to see him in the media a little bit. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. Me being a media guy covering this team, like, all right, what's that going to look like? And so I'm curious to see what that looks like.
The governor, should I say? The mayor is too small for him. The governor.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Is right. So I like that. And so shout out to Camden and the rest of the guys who are there now putting in that work. Terrell made this comment right here. The new running back from Arkansas is going to be a beast. Him and Hayden as the 1-2 punch. And that quick Charlie O is back, RB4. Quick little coverage of the running back room right here. Introducing themselves, the freshmen or the newcomers. Also, Brandon Hood was one of those guys, running back, freshman coming over from Phoenix City, Alabama. He said that, hey, I'm here to contribute, I'm here to compete, but I'm also here to win a Heisman Trophy. High, lofty goals for a young player like that, but I think that it shows, his determination, his mindset. Same way that Michael Welch came in with that singly focused mindset to really contribute as a freshman. I think we have the guy in this unit that's going to be have the right mindset to contribute to this team. So with Augusto just signing from Arkansas, 6'2" running back, 208 pounds, almost in the mold of the guy we just lost, and that is Alton McCaskill. What are your thoughts on the running back room now with Hayden, Welch, Hood, and Augusto, and also Charlie back there too? What are your thoughts on this running back room for the Buff?
Well, I've said it before, but I'm nervous to talk about running backs because every time you and I break it down, they lose a guy to the transfer portal. One of our very first videos, we broke down the running back room, and none of those guys are really here anymore. So, other than Welch,
all over dipped out.
But yeah, but I do like this group, and I liked the group back then, when it was Dylan and Alton, guys like that. But I like this group. I think Dallin, Hayden, It's got a lot of potential that he flashed a little bit at Ohio State, but is maybe ready to show a little bit more of that. Augustave at Arkansas was just a true freshman last year and didn't get to play a ton, but then finally at the end of the year he did. And the last 2 games he rushed for 180 yards. So and he started the very last game, and so he was clearly coming on at the end of last season. So he's got some momentum there. And then Micah Welch, we saw him throughout the spring. I love Micah Welch's game, and Brandon Hood. We keep hearing that he's really, really good, and that he obviously was not recruited as highly because he had that torn ACL as a junior, and that have impacted both his junior and senior seasons. But when he's been in there, he's a speedy guy that averages a lot per carry. And so you have those guys, and then you have Charlie. I like this running back room.
Man, a lot of people are going to be surprised from what Brandon Hood can bring. A guy who was ranked, I think, 4th in the country at his position as a sophomore based off what he did. And then he sustained that injury. So he kind of was looked over and forgotten about for that whole junior season, and came back in at the end of his senior year and really contributed. But then got on the track, and from what his uncle saying, he wasn't even 100% and ran the 10.8 in the 100-meter. Like, who does that? And said that they're not 100%. So we can just imagine how fast he is at 100%. And he's not a smaller back either. He's a built thicker back. And shoot, he's already in the mold of someone who can contribute. Possibly could redshirt just to help out, get back, continue to be healthy. With that knee injury, want to bring him along slowly, but he's looking like he's well put together. As we saw in the well-off videos, he came there with his whole family pretty much. The whole Hood family there had uncles, had former safety from the NFL, his uncle, Roderick Hood there, had younger brothers there. So we have officially 3 Hoods on the team, and Colton, Brandon, and Trent Hood. But also we have extensions of that family with Zach Owens and RJ Johnson are part of the team also. So we're happy to have another football family with the Buffs. But I think Trent Hood, the linebacker, and Brandon Hood, the running back, are going to really surprise some of the people who might not really know much about those guys. So look out for them.
Yeah, and don't forget Colton, obviously playing DB over there. And I will add one more thing about the running backs, Chico, is that a lot of people mention Coach Prime, like they criticize his recruiting because it's not about the future; it's all about winning now. We look at that running back room, and the oldest guy in there is Charlie, who still has 2 years of eligibility left.
Dang.
You have Hayden and Augustave who are sophomores. Yeah, and Hayden and Augustave have 2 years of eligibility left, and then obviously you have 2 true freshmen that have 4 years of eligibility. So that entire running back room could be back in 2025,
and that's huge for Colorado. Bringing on some backs who can develop and be there for a while and have that camaraderie and understand the program and what Coach Prime wants. They can relay that to others. I think they did a great job in that running back room to bring on younger backs, and not to be understated, but the fact that these guys haven't taken a beating. They haven't had a lot of carries to where they can sustain a lot of injuries or take on a lot of pounding or hits of that nature, like running backs are subject to do. But I think that also shows the reason why running backs have been kind of undervalued or devalued in the NFL, because you can find someone there more likely at that position than you can find at other positions. Case in point, we put Isaiah Hodge back there for the spring, and he contributed. He showed what he can do. So he might be a 5th back that we can see probably a transition from corner to running back, or he might stay at the cornerback position. Who knows? But he's that safety valve, that what do you call it? The break in case of emergency behind the glass running back that we have also. So
the fire extinguisher.
The fire extinguisher. There you go. might have a new nickname for him. Fire
There you
extinguisher.
go.
Break glass in case of emergency for Isaiah
That's
Hodge.
right.
But overall, I think the running back room will be amazing, a lot more than what a lot of people were expecting. Um, when we lost Dylan Edwards, Savion, and Alton McCaskill within like a week, I think it was. But great job by the general manager and his staff. Of course, Corey Phillips and what they've done by bringing in more running backs, more talented running backs, finding them on
Yeah.
these rosters and being able to seek them out and bring them in to Colorado. I love it. I like what they've done.
Yeah, I do too. And somebody in the comments mentioned this, but wide receiver core is set for a while too. And we saw when the player introductions, there were a few wide receivers in there too. Cordell Russell coming in from TCU. You had Cam McKell and Draylon Miller, a couple of true freshmen coming in. And as I'm looking at the roster right here, Omarion Miller is just a true sophomore. Terrell Timmons has a couple years of eligibility left. Assad Wasim, who we haven't even barely seen yet, has got 4 years of eligibility left. So Jordan Onavuge is a guy that Coach Prime has talked a lot about. Really loves his work ethic. He's another one that's a redshirt freshman with 4 years of eligibility left, and so they're a little loaded at receiver too with some talent. So I think you look at some of those areas, and I think sometimes some of these people like commenting on the recruiting here ought to look back and take a closer look at some of these areas and say, oh, okay, they are set up a little bit for the future, because they are bringing in some key guys, and corners the same thing. Colton Hood's got 4 years of eligibility left, and Ivan Yates, they just brought in, has a couple years left, and DJ McKinney is only a sophomore. Savion Riley, the new safety, has got 3 years left. RJ Johnson has 4 years left. So, they're bringing in guys that do have some time left.
Which is I'm loving that too, because a lot of people are stuck on saying Coach Prime is only here for the short haul. He's not here for the long haul. He's going to leave when the kids leave to go to the NFL. Well, it doesn't seem that way from what he's doing and what he's building out there. He's looking like he's going for the long haul, and he wants to win some championships and prove people wrong in Boulder, Colorado, showing what he can do. With this roster, you mentioned a couple guys that I want to talk about at that safety spot, man. And they showed these guys as they introduced themselves, and now we got some big boy safeties. Not saying we didn't have any, but we got some 6'2", 200-pound safeties that's going to come in, and they have experience from Vanderbilt, as Riley played at Vanderbilt, but then went through winter workouts as he committed to the University of Miami in December. Went through their workouts, decided to enter the portal again. Now he's here with the Buffs. And then you go with R.J. Johnson, who is a friend of the family, of the Hood family, went to the same Christian academy in Georgia that the Hood brothers went to. So they were able to come together and bring him along. So we have two experienced safeties from some good programs that has great size back there, and it has multiple years of eligibility left. Great job by Coach Corey. What do you see being provided from those two big body safeties, as I call them?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we should say great job, Corey, or great job, Pastor E. Dewey Smith, because he's the one that obviously he didn't have the biggest hand, but he's very close to the Hood family, R.J. Johnson, Zach Owens. But I joked with him when I did an interview with him. I know you did as well, but he's a great recruiter apparently. I didn't realize he was that, but the safety group. I mean, we know that they're very talented with guys like Shiloh and Cameron Silman Craig, and if needed, Trevor Woods can play back there and obviously be very good. We don't know if he's going to be a linebacker or safety out after all the moves they've made, but you add a couple of guys, like I mentioned, that are younger. RJ Johnson has got 4 years of eligibility left, and whether he plays a lot this year or not, this could be a good developmental year for him. I like his ability. He's 6'2". I think Arkansas lists him at 180. Savion Riley, as you mentioned, played a little bit at Vanderbilt and was at Miami. He's got 3 years of eligibility left, and 6'2", what'd you say, 202, something like that. So, you got some big safeties that came from Power 4 schools, and so I like what they've got there depth wise, and you have to feel pretty good about that safety group. And they didn't have a lot of depth coming out of spring, but you add guys like R.J. Johnson and Savion, and you're like, okay, now they got some depth at safety.
Exactly. So I'm excited by that. I still think Shiloh and Cam are going to be penciled in as the starters as of right now, with based off what they've done and what they can do. And I think they'll hold over that spot. But those two big boys come in and help out, whether it's special teams and on special
Mm-hmm.
packages in that defense. As we saw, we played a lot of free safeties last year, and so I anticipate you could see a lot of that this year, or at the same time seeing Travis Hunter play in that slot with those cornerbacks really stepping up. DJ McKinney, Preston Hodge, but as you said, also we see Ivan Yates, who has a lot of experience in starting
Mm-hmm.
ability. The young fellas coming in with Michael with his super speed, his ball skills. Lopez, a walk on. Malachi Murphy, a talented guy a lot of people don't know about out of South Florida. So Coach Prime did the smart thing. And when I say Corey Phillips, I mean his whole staff. Shout out to Coach
Yeah,
Riz
right.
and everybody else on the staff, JP and all those guys. So I know that I see that they're doing a great job, and they're not just going after big name guys or guys who came from these programs just because of the school they came from. They're going after talented guys that they've evaluated, that they see fits their wants and needs and prototype, but also guys who can be in the program for a few years and do exactly what Coach Prime was being criticized for a lot of, and that's not developing players. Well,
Yeah.
that's where we're headed right now. And I like the mindset from a couple of guys who came in and said we're looking to win a natty, a national championship. So I like that overall from the guys that they've brought in. They sound like grown men, as DT said. Sound like grown men ready for practice to see what comes together. Yep. Hey,
Yeah.
I will say this. I got to ask you this question, Brian. And we talked about this guy being as one of, actually, these two guys being, shoot, we got Hayes on there too. These three guys being some impact players for the defense. Hill Green at the middle linebacker, BJ Green at the outside edge rusher, and also Hayes coming over from Pitt as another bookend edge rusher. But you still have Okunlola. You still have Tajay McCoy and Keith, Devin Wade or Keaton Wade.
Wade.
I'm
Yeah.
getting the mix of the Wade brothers. Yeah, Keaton Wade. So we got some guys out there at the defensive end position. What are you liking from the newcomers? And who's going to be some impact guys in that front seven for you?
Yeah, and one other name to not forget, he's not a newcomer, but Arden Walker, was talked a lot about last year as being that guy that maybe could step up for Jordan Dominic this year. Missed the spring because he had that broken, I think it was a thumb injury that he had. So watch out for him as well. But yeah, those three guys that were listed there. I mean, BJ Green to me has the potential to be the most impactful transfer they've had this year. I loved his game at Arizona State. I think he's a disruptive force up front. And I think he's a huge impact transfer for them. Nakai Hill Green is another one that, I did an interview with him. Incredibly impressive young man. And he's just been successful, and he goes out to Michigan. And he didn't play that second year out there for whatever reason, but his first year he got on the field quite a bit and made a lot of tackles. And then he goes to Charlotte and he's impactful there. I think he's a guy that I pencil in probably as a starter at inside linebacker. And then you have Hayes, another guy to rush the passer. And you love his intro. He's like, I'm here to be the best defensive end on this team. That'd be great. I think they got a lot of guys. We're going to see a lot of rotation there because you have Okunlola, you have Hayes, you have Arden Walker, McCoy, you have all these guys that can rush the passer. And I think that's when you're at your best, is when you can rotate a bunch of different guys in and they're fresh and that they're not playing three downs, but that they get to rotate in there and they're fresh every third play. Or they play two plays and they go sit for a little bit, and you bring a fresh legs in all the time. And so I think we're gonna be able to see that more because they got deeper talent there.
Yep. I'm going to go through a few pictures right here as they've posted online as these guys going through the workouts. Look like Jalen Wester right there. Let's see if we can name some of these guys. Big Tyler Johnson is still on the roster. A lot of people forgot about him as he wasn't in that starting offensive line for the spring, but I think he was nursing an injury and adjusting to learning everything. But you're talking about a massive man right here, and a lot of people might have forgotten about him, but he's still there, and he could push for a starting spot also, coming over from Houston. And if I'm not mistaken, he might have had the highest PFF grade of all the offensive linemen who transferred over.
Yeah, I think you're right. And he's a guy that you can't forget about him. That offensive line competition, although it seemed pretty well set throughout the spring. I think that competition is going to go throughout the fall because you brought even more guys in that are just coming in this summer. Peyton Kirkland, Zach Owens, guys like that are on that younger side. I don't know if they're quite ready to compete yet, but you look at their size and they can absolutely match up with these guys. And so that competition, I think, is still going to be one of the more intense competitions as it was in the spring.
Yes. And a couple other offensive linemen, Wyatt Hummel, as we saw him introduce himself. Also, get his name, Evan or
Atia.
That's three. Atia from London, and then what's my guy from Michigan State?
Oh yeah, Ethan Boyd.
Ethan Boyd. So Ethan, Wyatt, and Yaya Atia comes over, bringing in some depth and some playing experience as far as Boyd and Hummel comes over. So more competition for those guys who was there on that front five initially with Jordan Seaton, Justin Mayers, Hank Zielinskis, or Yakiri Walker, Tyler Brown, and then Khalil Benson. Now you still have Tyler Johnson. You bring in Hummel, you bring in Boyd, and then Atia, I would say, we talked about this before as being a project, but then Kirkland and the other big fellow Owens on the other. Man, we got some depth there, and if those guys can develop and actually learn the playbook, you got competition all the way to the fall, like you said.
Yeah, and that's another spot too. I keep bringing it up, but that's another spot where they mention, the Coach Prime and the staff is not developing and not building a roster for the future. Well, they got 15 offensive linemen, 6 are seniors, but that means 9 of them could be back next year. And so, you still have some young guys. It's not like you got 12 seniors and 3 young guys. I mean, they got some guys that can still be here next year. I mean, Khalil Benson, Ethan Boyd, Chris Morris is another one, the JUCO transfer that's on his way here. Yakiri Walker, Zielinskis, Kirkland, Owens, Jordan Seaton, Atia. These are all guys that can still be here in 2025. And so that's another spot I look at and say, I know it's veteran heavy in some spots, but they're still filling out that roster with young guys that they're hoping to develop and be able to play in 2025 and 2026 and beyond.
Most definitely. I'm loving it. And this coaching staff knows what it's doing as we'll transition right here to looking at this graphic as far as the coaching staff goes. And Coach Prime has boasted on this many times, as he said, his staff and crew is filled with NFL experience and knowledge. 16 coaches and staff members with NFL experience, 159 total seasons, and so on. You can see all the graphics right there. How important is this? And how does this compare to past coaching staffs at Colorado experience?
Yeah, we've seen it before. I don't know if it was this much, but years ago when they first joined the Pac-12, John Embry's coaching staff had quite a bit of NFL experience on it, but not like this. And I think this is a better staff than what they had back then. And the Buffs as a program were kind of a mess back then, but I think this is better. And you look at that graphic. I mean, there's NFL coaches at, I think, almost every spot. I mean, almost everybody that's going to get coached on this team has got somebody from the NFL that can coach them. And one guy that's not on that graphic right there is Adelius Thomas, who Coach Prime introduced everybody on Well Off today as joining the team, the program as a defensive analyst. He was an All-Pro, I believe, with the Ravens. He was an All-Pro and a 2-time Pro Bowler. So that's another 10, 11 years of NFL experience that has joined the staff. And so I don't know if that's included in that 16 and the 159 seasons, but that is a lot of experience on the NFL staff here. And so I'm impressed with what they have there. And it looks like, Chico dropped out for a second, but so I'll keep talking about this. But offensive line, obviously Phil Lodeholt is coming in as the offensive line coach. Just recently was playing in the NFL. Warren Sapp helping out the defensive line. Damian Lewis is helping out the defensive line as well. He was a first-round draft pick. He's got NFL experience. So there you are. Coach Prime, Kevin Mathis in the secondary. Coach Phillips is coaching the receivers. And so, obviously, the coordinators have NFL experience. And so I think pretty much everyone that's going to be coached has got NFL experience coaching them, and that's impressive.
And I think that's huge because, like Coach Prime said, he can have those guys show film from them actually doing what they're asking for. And I don't think a lot of people realize how long of a ways that can go with teaching players and bringing that, I would say, that respect, so to speak. You're going to respect your coaches anyway, but you're going to have a different respect for them if you know that they've done it before. You know that they can do it, or they have done it before, and they can show you them doing that very thing that they're asking you to do.
Yeah. And
so
Coach Prime has mentioned that, and for anybody that maybe downplays that, I will say that pretty much every time I talk to a recruit or a transfer that's coming in, they will mention the NFL guys on the staff, and they will say that same thing, unprompted. Sometimes they'll say, "Look, I get to come here and get coached by." If they're a DB, they'll say, "I get to get coached by Coach Prime and Kevin Mathis, who's been there. I get to get coached by Warren Sapp. I get to get coached by guys that know what they're doing." And whether Robert Livingston, he was just with the Bengals. Nikhai Hill-Green mentioned that to me, that one of the big things, reason why he came here was Robert Livingston was just with the Bengals. And so he got that experience that he can learn an NFL type of defense. And so I think that's a big deal. Are you still there, Chico?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now I can see you.
I'm here. Well, you know what? I was on earlier, so it seemed like my phone was running hot, so I had to make sure I put the fan on it so it can keep going. But yeah, I'm here with you. Let me see, make sure we still good. All right, we still good.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think you were mentioning Nikhai Hill-Green. Y'all gotta excuse us for the technical difficulties, but yeah, Nikhai Hill-Green at the linebacker position, and I'll let you go ahead and finish making your point. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that Nikhai Hill-Green was one of those recruits that mentioned Robert Livingston as a reason why he wanted to come here, because he just came from the Bengals, and he gets to learn a different defense, an NFL type of defense, and Robert Livingston can tell him, hey, this is what it takes to get to the league, because I was just there. And so I think that really resonates with players when these coaches can say, I know how to get there. This is exactly what you need to do to get there. And if players want to get there, they're going to listen.
And a lot of them are, like you said, they're loving the fact that Warren Sapp is the D-line coach. And also you said the news that broke earlier today on the Well-Off Media, and I've seen it online now, is that former NFL player, all-pro linebacker Adalius Thomas, who was also a teammate of Coach Prime when he played with the Ravens. Adalius Thomas was a force on that outside edge. Now he's getting into coaching. He's coming over as an analyst for Coach Prime and the Buffs, helping out on the defensive side and on special teams with Coach Trevor. Another NFL guy experience coming over, and a good one at that. A guy who was on that number one Ravens defense with Ray Lewis and Peter Boulware and such. What else can another all-pro add to the coaching staff of Coach Prime?
Yeah, just another guy that people can talk to, and like I mentioned, like pretty much all these guys have someone they can go to. And Adalius Thomas was an all-pro linebacker. You've got Warren Sapp, who was a Hall of Fame defensive lineman. Corey Phillips played receiver. So, like I said, just about everybody has someone they can go to that's played in the league and find out some tips on what they need to do. And the more NFL guys here means that they've got more friends that might come here and show up in Boulder. That you might have more NFL guys even showing up just to be around practice. And those guys love. They're not even on the staff, but just a day or two around the facility, these players love picking their brains as much as they can. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, I saw big George Hageman mingling with the guys at Jordan Seaton and a couple other guys at the meeting and stuff that they have on Memorial Day to just get everybody there. So I'm liking that. A couple of young guys that we can mention that could be multiple position guys, Draylon Miller and Cam Michael. They look the part, look like they're college ready as far as body goes. Talent-wise goes and what they've done in high school, we project them to find a way onto the football field. Cam Michael say he plays DB and wide receiver. Draylon Miller say he plays wide receiver, but a lot of people project him that we could see him line up next to Shedeur Sanders in the backfield this year based off of his high school film. What do you think about those two young guys?
Yeah, more versatility, and I love that a couple of those guys mentioned they play two different positions. They know they're going to get that shot if they can prove themselves. At CU, Coach Prime's going to give them that shot if they can dominate one side. And so, but it also tells you that maybe some of these guys aren't locked into something yet. That maybe a Cam McKell is going to go through practices, and they might say, "Hey, we like you better at corner than at receiver right now, and so maybe we'll start you there." And so it tells me that those guys are fine going one way or another, and that they want to come in and play wherever they can help. And so I think that's a big deal too.
Yeah, I think they will help. We're going to see both of those guys, I think, on the field in some capacity and find a way to get the ball in their hands. The two big tight ends we saw come along, two big Colorado boys added to that tight end room. Tell us about those two guys.
Yeah, Sam Hart, for one, I'm coming from Ohio State. He's the one that's on scholarship. He's going to be a big addition for them. And we know they've had a lot of turnover at tight end. He's a guy that I look at and say he can start right away. I mean, he's one you have to look at there. And I don't know if he'll start or not, but he's one that I would pencil in maybe in that starting group. And I forget the name. Who's the walk-on kid? I forget his name. Charlie Moore.
Gosh, is that right? I don't have it on me right now, but he definitely said it.
Yep. I'm totally blanking on it right now, and I apologize. But I believe he was at UNLV. Grew up in.
He was at UNLV.
Yeah, he grew up in Steamboat Springs. So, and I'm totally blanking on the name. I apologize, but it's more depth at a spot where you need it right now. And so, both those guys, grew up here. I think that's awesome. You got a couple other Colorado kids that are coming here, so that's a good deal for them.
I think it fits. Charlie Williams is his name.
Yeah, okay.
I think it fits in with those guys and their size and their blocking capabilities with what Colorado and Coach Prime and Pat Sherman wants to do on the offensive side of the ball with the tight ends. I don't think we'll see a situation like we saw with Mikey last year, being in a lot of passing situations out there, split out from the offensive line as a tight end / wide receiver, so to speak.
Yeah.
With him being a former wide receiver, we have now true tight ends that we can put on the end of that line and contribute into the run game and into the short passing play action game also. I think they are the prototype tight ends that we were looking for. Yeah, we can get a little bit bulkier guys, but if you look at Big Sam Hart and then also Charlie Williams kind of would surprise you too. Once you put those pads on, man, and let me just go ahead and say this, because I always go back to a story. Got to go back to arena football real quick. This big long this big long tight end, I think he might have been from Colorado. He was a white guy too. Didn't wear any elbow pads, no wristbands, no gloves. You knew he was a white guy because he was pale, right? And but he's a former tight end in college. But in arena football, he's playing more like the tackle position, having to block the defensive end, which I was at defensive end at the time. those guys who are longer extremities with the long arms, they might not be bulky, but they're long arm, quick feet. They can contribute, especially in the blocking game. And this guy
Yeah.
here, uh, probably one of the 3 times in my life that I've been blindsided, and he caught me one time. Big tight end, looked unathletic, kind of like the Joker out there on the football field, but he makes plays, and I think that's what Hart and Charlie Williams can bring to that tight end room, man. So
Yeah.
look out for them to make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. I think that group, it's not going to be a standout group, but I think that it can be a very, solid group and a group of contributors that they're needed. I mean, you got to have those guys play well if they're going to run the football well.
A couple of guys who probably won't have their name called a lot, so you won't see that impact like that, but you'll feel that impact with the extended runs, with the higher average per carry in the run game from Colorado this year, I think. So
Yeah.
let's do it. Go on to this next position, and I think we'll hold up here, but we won't go too much further. But go on to this next position. We covered running back, offensive line. We talked about the safety spot, DB spot. I guess we can go to my favorite spot in that front seven on the defensive front. In that middle, defensive line, and those we talked about Nikhil Green and Bentley being probably those 2 starters at the linebacker position, but up that middle, defensive tackle. Who are you looking at there? We saw big Tafik Thomas come in from Louisville. He introduced himself. He looked like one of those guys on paper. Uh, look great, size and abilities and such. What do you think about the defensive tackle spot this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys there that were here last year, Shane Cokes and Amari McNeil, that I thought played well at times, and they've probably got to step up even more. McNeil, I thought, we've talked about it, but I thought he had a really nice year last year. His first time really playing significant snaps on the college level. So I'm excited about him. Shane Cokes, a second-year guy in that leadership group. Second-year guy at Colorado. I think that he's got a chance to really have a big year. I'm trying to look at the rush so I don't forget people, but Rayon Buell from Ohio, I think is going to be a major contributor up there. Torian Carter is a big dude. He's going to help out quite a bit. Let's see, Anquan Barnes. Yeah, Anquan Barnes and Chidozie and Nwankwo are 2 guys that I'm looking at big things out of them. I mean, Anquan at nose tackle and Chidozie more on that little outside tackle spot. But I think they got some depth there. I don't know how much how deep the rotation is, but I think they got a lot of possibilities there to do some really good things in the defensive front.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that depth and having multiple guys who can rotate in, like we were saying earlier, on that defensive line. So I'm going to name off a few right quick, and I'll try to go in the order where I think the rotation will be. And it's just before we even get the real pass on. So Nwankwo and Barnes, I like in the middle. Tough to move, keep the offensive linemen from getting to those linebackers. Linebackers can flow freely with those 2 big bodies in there. Block bully and big Anquan Barnes, who came over from Alabama, a big body guy who still has some growing to go and to understand what he can do. Now, if it's not going to be Barnes, then of course Amari McNeil. And maybe I should put McNeil and Nwankwo first and then put Barnes behind McNeil, saying that if Barnes does what he's supposed to do, he can possibly take over the spot from Amari, in my opinion. So Amari has that potential to really be that guy in that middle. I have some footage that I need to post of him doing workouts this spring. He's really showing that dedication as he's been working out with defensive lineman trainer over there also. So I like McNeil and Nwankwo and Quinn Barnes. And Ryan Bull. Also, I like him. And we'll go to we're 6 deep right now, at least, with Tarion Carter, and then who's another defense? Tafik Thomas in there. So that's 6 deep right there without even naming Shane Coates. And he can play inside or outside, I think, without naming. I'm forgetting somebody else.
Well, another guy that we haven't even mentioned, probably more on the edge, but Quincy Wiggins from LSU,
Yeah,
is
Quincy
a guy
Wiggins.
that showed up this spring, and he's a guy that's going to factor in somewhere as well.
Yeah, mostly a little bit. I think he's more of an outside. He'll be with
Correct.
Lola
Yeah.
and them, but just in the big bodies, we have at least six names that can go out there and I think can really contribute. You can put these guys, you know, first two guys, y'all got the first two downs.
Yeah.
Next two, we could work like that and go two plays, and rotate this defense in, and these guys will keep stay fresh out there. When you talking about that, let me see. When you talk about that seventh and eighth guy, it could be a couple of those defensive ends like Cokes or Wiggins who can play over the guard and the center and in pass rush situations. So we might even see a NASCAR type deal where you got BJ
Yeah.
Green on the outside, Okunlola, Hayes, and a Wiggins on the field at the same time. If it's third and long, why not?
Right.
You know, why not put those guys out there and let them hunt? So I like what we can do. I like the versatility that we have, and then on the back end, also the big safeties, hard hitting safeties, coverage safeties, and DBs. Man, hey, Colorado might surprise a lot of people out there who's doubting them because we have
Well,
some talented guys in place.
yeah, and I always tell people I don't think this is going to be like one of the best defenses in the Big 12. I just think it's hard to put together, all these pieces, and they obviously struggled last year. I don't think it's going to be one of the best in the Big 12, but I think it's going to be a much better defense than it was last year, and it doesn't have to
Well,
be.
why would you?
What's
Let
that?
me get you to expand on that. Let me get you to expand on that. Why would you think this won't be one of the best ones in the Big 12? Is it because they're just coming together, or because of the other defenses you see in the Big 12?
A little of both. I think, I mean, the ones that came back, I mean, obviously we're on a defense that struggled last year. It was not a great defense that Colorado had last year, and you're adding some pieces that we just don't know yet. And I think there's potential to be a good defense. I don't know if it's going to be one of the best. I mean, I still look at like like Utah is going to be a really good defense. We know that. Kansas State is usually going to play some good defense, and so there's teams like that I think are going to be. You can count on some of those defenses more than Colorado. I think the potential's there. I don't want to put a ceiling on them and say they can't be, but I guess my point is I think they're just going to be much better, and how much better that is, we'll see. But I think they are going to be better, and that's huge. And I can't remember what the number is they gave up last year, 34, 35 points a game. I think they can cut a touchdown off of that. And if you're giving up 27, 28 points a game, that's not unbelievable. But I think that when you have a Shedeur Sanders and all the weapons you have on offense, if you're giving up 27, 28 points a game, you got a shot to win every game. And so I think that's where this defense, I still think it's going to be in some ways a bend defense that they'll give up some yards and they'll give up some points every now and then. But I think that's going to be a much better group than it was last year. I like the pieces much more than I did last year. I just don't know how exactly it's all going to come together yet because you have a lot of unknowns as far as what they look like in a Colorado uniform.
Okay, respectable, definitely. I appreciate that. I think that with the different defensive coordinator who's going to simplify things and play towards his talent that he has on the defense, I think will make this defense a lot better. I think looking at last year is going to be totally kind of like different style, different talent, different everything based off of last year. We've seen what we could do last year in like a pressure cooker situation. This is just amass as much talent as you can and then go from there. This year, you got the leadership retreat. You got different things that can, I guess, forge that bond and that camaraderie that will translate onto the football field. Will they be one of the best in the Big 12? Who knows? I don't know. Honestly, I haven't looked at the Big 12 defenses enough to see and follow how many teams have lost key players on their defense. But I can look at this defense and say, based off of last year, what we needed to add and what we have added, and just looking at it on paper, yes, there's some unknowns, as you said, but looking at it on paper and saying, what we needed to add. Same way, I keep going back to the grocery list. If you go
Yeah.
and you say, hey, man, we got this that we need, and we go to the store and we actually fulfill that list, yeah, hey, all we got to do now is bring it together.
Right.
Have the
Yeah.
right chef in the kitchen and bring it together. So I think if we can do that, and with the fact that we're trying to put emphasis on running the ball, which is going to keep the ball out of the other offense's hands, time of possession will be huge. Keeping that
Mhm.
defense off the field so much, time of possession, running the football, and putting up points would be the best friend of this defense. And I think that
Yeah.
that will eventually, or at the end of the year, have them as a top tier defense in the league. Not on that bottom half, but I would say middle to top half
Yeah.
in the league. So that's
Well,
what I'm looking for, Max.
I will say this: the Big 12 has not been known for defense. We'll say that, and so maybe there is that potential to be up there. And I tell you what, if they can cut it down to where they're giving up 23, 24 points a game, then I do think you're going to be one of the top defenses. And if they're doing that, if they're giving up 23, 24 points a game, they're going to win a lot of football games this year.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be something to see. I think we have those pieces. I'm excited about BJ Green, how he came in and said, "Hey, man, this is no nonsense. I ain't here to talk too much. I'm here to put. I'm out the action, boss."
Yeah.
Last time we seen people say that was Marshawn Lynch, and before that, as I take back to a whole other story, shouts out to Kenneth Hollis, who was a linebacker for LSU during the time when I came out. But I was able to play in the North-South Alabama football All-Star game, and we had kind of like this weekend where you got to know each team, and then it all culminated with before the game, each team or player or representative or leader or whatever stood up and had something to say. The guy from my team stood up. He said what he had to say, all charismatic. Kenneth Hollis, who eventually played for Nick Saban, and I think they won it. Yeah, the national championship at LSU. Linebacker, he stood up as a high schooler and said, "I don't have nothing to say. I'm here to crack heads, basically. I'm not here for the talking." And he stood up. He said that he went back and sat back down. Reminded me of BJ Green, but I said that to say this: that guy there was about business. He went on, had a great career at LSU. He proved it, and I think BJ Green is going to be of that same mold. He's going to come
Yeah.
in and prove his worth and his attitude, his thought process to the Colorado nation, Buff Nation out there. So I'm rooting for him and everybody else on that defense. So I think that's going to bring us to an ending point. Brian, let us know anything else you got to say, man. Anything we might have missed on, and then we'll
No,
get to let them know where you can find you at.
I think we hit it. After not doing this for a couple of weeks, we covered a lot of stuff today. And catch me at Brian Howell 33 on X or Twitter, and then buffzone.com. And heading out on a little vacation this week, so won't be a ton over the next week or so. But we'll be back hitting it hard. After that vacation, and we got Big 12 Media Day coming up next month, and so not next month, it'll be July, but it's coming up quick.
Yeah, quick, fast, and in a hurry, man. Happy Memorial Day out there to everybody. We're a little bit late on it, but happy Memorial Day. Happy summer to all the kids
Mm-hmm.
getting out for the summer. You guys be safe out there. Y'all be ready to tune in to more BuffTime Podcast as we will be covering throughout this summer. Coach Prime, Colorado, Buffaloes, and everything that's going on with them. Y'all have any questions, comments, get in the chat. Let us know. Also, once this live is over with, y'all can still comment. So go ahead and put your city, your state, or your country in there. Let us know where you're checking in from so we can give you a shout out on the next one. You feel me? If y'all like my haircut, put it in the chat because I see you.
Celeste likes it.
I appreciate it, Celeste. All right, everybody else, man, y'all know what to do, man. Hit the like, subscribe, comment, all the other good stuff. We're going to be up and about this thing. Another Buff Time Podcast, premium primetime Buff Talk with Brian and Chico. All right, B. We're going to be up and about this thing, man. Peace in the Middle
All
East.
right. Take care.
Yes, sir.